Welcome to the Whisk and Spill podcast, where we sip on a matcha and talk about, whatever's in my mind. Whether it's fashion, pop culture, media, or just my random musings about life, this is the space where I share it all. I'm Angelica, your host, and on today's episode, I brewed myself an iced matcha latte, as well as my thoughts on the fascinating media landscape in Australia. As a marketing student, I've recently found myself diving deep into how media trends are reshaping brand communications, and I'm really excited to share my insights with you. So grab your favorite drink, whether that be a matcha or a latte. Let's settle in and let's get started. Today, I will discuss 3 trends that have significantly impacted the Australian media landscape, starting with data-driven personalization. The strategic approach involves marketers analyzing personal data and unique consumer behaviors from various sources to tailor personalized experiences, content, or services. Personally, I love when brands do this. It just feels like we're besties and they really want to get to know me. It definitely feels like they genuinely care about the audience's experience. Let's begin with the positive impacts. Do you guys remember that Coca-Cola campaign where they personalized the bottles with names? That was using data analytics. So this campaign was called Coca-Cola Share a Coke, and they used their data analytics to identify popular names and demographics. This led to an increased customer engagement and a 7% sales boost during the campaign. This real-time feedback enabled the brand to adapt its strategies effectively, showcasing how data-driven insights enhance brand effectiveness and consumer interaction, which I think is really cool. Another positive impact is the creation of personalized experiences. I'm really excited to talk about this and the company that is associated with it, just because it's definitely a really interesting topic. So what this means is brands can develop hyper-targeted campaigns that resonate with individual consumer needs, ultimately improving engagement and brand loyalty. A prime example is the innovative company themselves, Spotify, whose personalization features are such a game changer. Approximately 70% of users prefer music tailored to their tastes, like me, thanks to algorithms analyzing listening habits. Features like Discover Weekly enhance user engagement and loyalty, contributing to Spotify's impressive 33% share of the global music streaming market. That's honestly insane, and this success is also pivotal for emerging artists as well, as Spotify's recommendations boost their visibility and streaming numbers. Now let's move on to the negative implications. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like a lot of us are starting to feel uneasy about how our personal data is being collected and used. But I don't think it's just paranoia. About 79% of people are actually concerned about how companies handle their data. And honestly, can you blame them? I mean, think about the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal with Facebook. They harvested data from over 87 million users without the consent for political ads. It's no wonder there is such a huge fallout from that. In fact, 45% of people said they would cut down their use of a service if they felt their data wasn't safe. So I guess with data-driven personalization, there's definitely a big trust issue right here. Then there's the whole echo chamber effect. This is what happens when brands tailor content so you precisely end up on seeing things that match your current interests or beliefs. A great example is YouTube's recommendation algorithm. Once it locks onto your preferences, it keeps feeding you more of the same, right? But here's the thing. 62% of internet users say they've noticed it too. The downside? You're less likely to see new ideas or perspectives. It's kind of like living in a bubble without even realizing it. So I guess in short, data-driven personalization is great for boosting engagement and efficiency, but brands do need to balance it carefully. They've got to handle privacy concerns responsibly and still find ways to keep their campaigns creative and fresh. It's all about navigating those challenges smartly. Next up, let's dive into the fascinating world of influencer marketing. This trend has really exploded in the Australian media landscape. By teaming up with social media influencers, brands can promote their products in a way that feels super authentic and personal, thanks to the close relationship influencers have with their followers. So let's talk about the first positive implication, which is authenticity and trust. One of the biggest perks of influencer marketing is that people tend to trust influencer recommendations way more than traditional ads. Take Bondi Sands, for example, an Aussie tanning brand that collaborated with influencers like Shani Goodman. The engagement from that campaign was off the charts because consumers felt like they could trust Shani's recommendations. In fact, studies show that 61% of consumers trust influencer recommendations, compared to just 38% for content created by the brands themselves. Then, there's targeted reach and engagement. Influencers are fantastic at connecting with niche audiences. Look at Frank Body, for example, the skincare brand known for its coffee scrub. They tapped into beauty influencers on Instagram and went super viral. Now, they're one of the top skincare brands in Australia. It's impressive. Even research indicates businesses earn an average of $5.78 for every dollar spent on influencer marketing, showcasing how lucrative this trend can be. But it's not all sunshines and rainbows. There are some negative impacts we need to discuss. First up is authenticity issues and mistrust. As effective as influencer marketing can be, when consumers see too many sponsored posts, it can lead to a bit of skepticism. A recent survey found that 47% of consumers are getting tired of influencer content, feeling like it's becoming a bit too repetitive and less genuine. Take Kim Kardashian, for example. Her numerous sponsored posts have caused some followers to genuinely question how authentic her recommendations really are. Then there are transparency and regulatory concerns. In Australia, influencers are legally required to disclose when they're paid in a partnership, yet 33% still don't clearly mark sponsored content. A notable case involved a fashion brand named Revolve that faced backlash for working with influencers who didn't label their paid posts clearly. This lack of transparency can seriously damage consumer trust, affecting both the influencer and the brand's reputation. So while influencer marketing is undeniably a powerful strategy, it's crucial for brands to navigate the tricky waters of authenticity, transparency, and audience trust if they want to succeed in the long run. Now, let's wrap up with a look at streaming and on-demand culture. This trend has completely transformed how we consume media in Australia and beyond. With platforms like Netflix, Spotify, and YouTube, we can access our favorite shows, music, and videos anytime we want, on our own terms. It's honestly a game changer for consumers, and it's also shaking up how brands communicate with their audiences. So starting off with the positive implications. First, let's talk about convenience and accessibility. On-demand content allows viewers to watch or listen to whatever they want, whenever they want. This flexibility is a huge win for consumers. A report from Statista indicated that as of 2023, over 60% of Australians subscribe to at least one streaming service, including giants like Netflix and Stan. Personally, I think I subscribe up to more than 5. This has led brands to rethink their strategies and focus on creating binge-worthy content that keeps viewers hooked. Next up is the rise of niche content. With streaming platforms, there's definitely something for everyone. No longer are we stuck with whatever's on cable. We can find shows and movies that cater to specific interests and moods. A great example is Netflix, which has been successful in creating original series that targets diverse audiences, such as Heartbreak High and The Crown, allowing them to reach viewers with specific tastes. However, it is not all positive. One challenge is the impact on traditional media. As more people turn to streaming, traditional TV viewership is declining. Research from Nielsen indicates that in 2022, traditional TV viewership dropped by 25%. Isn't that crazy? This leads to a significant revenue losses for networks. This shift forces brands to adapt their advertising strategies as they can no longer rely on the same broad reach through traditional channels. Another issue is content saturation. With so much content available, consumers can feel overwhelmed by choices. For me, I can definitely relate to this. When my boyfriend and I are having movie date nights, we often spend so much time scrolling through the abundance of movies and streaming services rather than actually watching something. A survey by Pew Research Center found that 80% of viewers report feeling stressed about selecting what to watch next due to the sheer volume of options. This saturation can dilute brand messaging and make it a bit harder for individual pieces of content to actually stand out. So while streaming and on-demand culture offer incredible convenience and diversity, brands must navigate the challenges of traditional media decline and content saturation to maintain their relevance in this rapidly changing landscape. As we wrap up on this episode of Whisk and Spill, I want to thank you for joining me today as we explore the dynamic trends that reshape the Australian media landscape. From data-driven personalization to the rise of influencer marketing and streaming culture, it's clear that both brands and consumers are navigating a complex environment filled with opportunities and challenges. Just remember, whether you're a brand looking to connect authentically with your audience or a consumer navigating these trends, staying informed is key. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed your drink while tuning in, because I definitely enjoyed mine.